Hey guys, welcome back to Talking with Tyler, and on today's podcast I'll be talking about recapping the NFL preseason week 1 with a very special guest, Elijah Weintraub. Welcome to the show, Eli.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. So I want to get right into it, and we started off with the Hall of Fame game, Bears and Texans. Bears came off on top in that one, 21-17. Caleb Williams didn't play, surprisingly. I thought they might have wanted to give him some time in there since he's a rookie, top overall pick in this year's NFL draft. But there's also a couple other games that I wanted to talk about, but I want to first ask you, what game did you like the most out of all these games that happened in this week 1 of NFL preseason?
Absolutely. I mean, we had a lot of crazy games so far, and I think it all starts with the kickoff rule. The kickoff rule definitely showed us that there's going to be a lot more scoring happening, and we noticed that in the preseason game. There was a lot of great games that I saw this weekend. One of the top ones for me was definitely, I think, the Texans-Steelers game. I really just liked how the Texans played out. I like how they had multiple QBs in and out, and I also was very impressed with how the Steelers came into town and played, especially with No Wilson. They started with Justin Fields. They also had Kyle Allen. They had a couple guys out there. It's very impressive how that game went. So to me, that was one of the more key games that I was definitely into for sure.
Yeah, I definitely like that game too. It was a close one, 20-12, 8-point game. But I also wanted to talk about the Broncos-Colts. That came down to the wire, that game, 34-30. Saw little Zach Wilson, who was formerly on the Jets. He had a great game. He only incompleted 4 passes, and he had over 130 yards, I think. And also, I wanted to recognize the Raiders-Vikings game, that 24-23, another close one. The scores don't really matter in preseason, but it's the whole preseason's really about development and getting the rookies some time to get used to the system. That game was a great game. Vikings had J.J. McCarthy back, the one they drafted this year. They actually traded with the Jets draft picks, and he played great, I thought. But he's now fighting an injury, and it's going to be interesting to see his recovery plan and if he can make it back at some point in this season. So, was there any other matchups or players you saw that stood out to you from these games?
Well, we also definitely saw a lot of injury. You mentioned it first with J.J. McCarthy. Well, number one, he had a fantastic game with the Minnesota Vikings. He went for 11 for 17. He did have an interception, but he did provide a lot of touchdowns and a great game for sure. He is going to have to go under surgery, which is going to be a little tough. So now the Vikings have to question who is going to be their starter, and will Darnold be able to hold them out for most of the season. And injury was also a big thing in the New York Giants side. Drew Lock, who I predicted on a podcast I do, the 12 Horseshoe Podcast, I said that he would possibly take over for Daniel Jones after a certain time, possibly after week 5, was my bid and my guess. But he did play, with the struggle. He had an interception early on in the first half, and he did fall and face an injury. Now, it is not as severe as we see with J.J. McCarthy, but he's going to miss some time, and that is the preseason. So we're going to have to see a lot more of Tommy DeVito for sure in the New York side.
Yeah, we definitely don't want any players in preseason to get hurt. So that's definitely unfortunate for Vikings fans, and definitely J.J. McCarthy, who has to recover from surgery in a few weeks. But somebody on the Giants side that I wanted to recognize was Eric Gray, who's going to be in his second year this year. He had one 48-yard run. He broke off in the Giants-Lions game, 14-3. Giants came on top. Eric Gray's definitely going to be a great back behind Devin Singletary, and a great replacement for Saquon Barkley, who actually went to their rivals, the Eagles. Their game, I think the Eagles, I don't know if they won. Yeah, they won against the Ravens, 16-13. Jalen Hurts, I don't think he played. Do you have any stuff about that game?
Yeah, I mean that was really another close game for sure. Eagles Ravens 16-13 the final. That was a close game, and as I talked about in the beginning, the preseason games we're usually seeing low scoring games, not as many starters starting, but we see a lot more high scoring games, and that's because of this kickoff rule that we see for sure. And with this Eagles game, although not much of the starters did play, we saw a one heck of a game for sure. I mean, the Eagles came up on top. The Ravens had 3 QBs out there. They did fall a little short, but there were a lot of opportunities available for them. And again, this is one of the first matchups this season that we'll see between these two teams. That being December 1st, where we'll see these two teams back at it again. So it's a little small test with some players that we may not see fully enough in the regular season. But for sure, it's a good, what a close game it was. So 16-13, ending it off.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be definitely a matchup to watch on December 1st, like you said. Both of these teams are probably going to be competitors for the Super Bowl this year. Eagles, they won the NFC East last year, and Ravens made it to the AFC Championship. I think they also won their division. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how these teams do in this 2024 season. And another thing I wanted to talk about was on the Jets side. They won 20-17 against the Commanders. Braylon Allen, he's definitely going to be a great back behind Breece Hall. And Braylon Allen is a big beast. He's 245 pounds, 6 attempts for 54 yards in the Commanders game that happened on Saturday afternoon at 12 p.m. at MetLife Stadium. And he's definitely going to be somebody to watch if Breece Hall gets hurt. And he definitely has a great... he definitely played on a great college team, and now he's going to be playing on a Jets team who's trying to revamp and hopefully make a Super Bowl run with Aaron Rodgers. And also, Aaron Rodgers is going to be hopefully healthy this year, and the running back are always good, hopefully this year. Breece Hall, we hope he stays healthy. He did get hurt with the Broncos 2 years ago. And it's going to be interesting to see how this offense does, and the offensive line especially, who got some big offseason movements. Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Olu Fashanu, the guy they drafted from Penn State. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Jets can do this year. I'm predicting 11 or 12 wins. Do you have any thoughts about the Jets this year? I'm a big Jets fan, so.
The Jets and the Commanders, that was a great game to start off with. I mean, 20-17 the final. I was very impressed also with Jaden Daniels on the Commanders side. I mean, that first play that he threw out was pretty wild. I mean, right to De'Ami Brown, that was a pretty nice pass there. I could see definitely a big potential there on the Commanders side. For the Jets overall, they played not a great job so far in that preseason game. 20-17, they had a good run. Now, the goal this year for them is to try to stay healthy and keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. If they can survive the first game, I think to them it's like winning the Super Bowl, because then you know you're going to have a good season down the line. I mean, it really just starts by playing strong and well, and San Francisco's a tough team. They were a Super Bowl contender. They were in the Super Bowl last year. So it is basically a potential Super Bowl matchup with a very unique quarterback of Aaron Rodgers in store. So we're going to have to see how Aaron Rodgers factors in. He won't be playing much in the preseason, we were told. So it's just going to matter of how much can he stay healthy, and can the Jets deliver on the offensive side and keep it strong on the defensive side.
Yeah, I like what you said about Jaden Daniels and the Jets-Commanders preseason game. And I also like what you said about the matchup coming up week 1, Jets-49ers. 49ers are coming off an AFC championship. Actually, no, they made it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They lost that, but the 49ers are definitely going to be hungry for another Super Bowl this year. And they have a great running back behind Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, who had nearly or almost 1,500 yards rushing. I think he did. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see 49ers side. Jets 49ers is definitely another matchup that's going to be great to start the season off on Monday Night Football.
one thing for sure I noticed was about Brandon Ayuk. Now they're saying Steelers is a potential nominee for him to go to. It's looking strongly there. Now that's going to be a whole new side for the San Francisco that we need to now look at. Will Brandon Ayuk leaving affect the 49ers going forward? That is going to be a big thing. To me, I mean, he was the whole team last year besides the quarterback and Brock Purdy. So to me, I think that is going to be a loss, sending him to Pittsburgh for San Francisco. But we'll see how it plays out. And again, the Jets are going to be their biggest test in Week 1. It's going to be a brand new game for both sides, especially if Brandon Ayuk does leave and the confirmed details are true to Pittsburgh. And for the New York Jets, it's like starting from scratch all over again. It's like Aaron Rodgers' first season with the New York Jets, because we haven't seen much of him last season besides the one preseason game and 4 plays of the regular season. So we will definitely see like a brand new season for both these teams upcoming.
Yeah, I think it's also better that the Jets and especially Aaron Rodgers are playing on turf besides the MetLife one, because that definitely, I think, played a factor in Aaron Rodgers' Achilles injury last year. And it's definitely going to be a different crowd in the 49ers stadium than what it would be like in MetLife. So what do you think the score would be for that game? I know it's still a little too early in the season, but still.
It's definitely a little early, but I could see it coming down to about a 3-point game. I'm going to go ahead and say 26-23 if I had to do the early guess.
Yeah, I think so too. Is there any other preseason games that you want to talk about before we close it off?
Well, one thing I want to talk about that's not preseason related, but we did get to see a lot of it, was the new kickoff rule. I've been talking about it a lot. How I noticed about this kickoff rule, I just see a lot of injuries out of this. Although, and it's like a weird thing to say, like, oh, what about injuries? But, I see injuries out of this kickoff rule. I mean, it's a new rules that we all have to remember. It's a tough rule to understand. And I see, again, a lot of injuries because, you're waiting till the ball officially touches the ground or in the receiver's hands, and then everybody can move. And you're definitely running the ball a lot more than you were previously. So, to me, this kickoff rule is a good thing, but I see a lot of bad into it. So far, it worked out okay for the first preseason games, but we'll see how it plays out for the regular season. And again, a lot more scoring. We know that the NFL is, always in that mid-medium range when it comes to scoring. We could see a lot more scoring now because of this new kickoff rule, and we've just seen it early on with the preseason game. And as we mentioned earlier, the Hall of Fame game, if it wasn't for the rain, we could have seen a higher scoring game for sure if it didn't end in that third quarter.
Yeah, definitely. I don't like the kickoff rule at all. It just looks really ugly. All the players bunched up in the middle of the field waiting for the back to catch the ball. I really don't like that. But it's going to have to make do. And hopefully nobody gets injured like you said. So thank you guys for listening to my podcast about NFL preseason week 1. Thank you again, Eli, for joining me on the show. I really appreciate it. Follow him on Instagram and X. And hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Bye, guys.